welcome back to week 3 of LEC Summer, where it's time for G2 Esports and Vitality to close out the day. The former champions have returned to form in Summer, and I want to highlight some standout plays from the match of the week versus Rogue last Saturday. So the thing about G2 Esports is that it doesn't matter what they play, it doesn't matter macro, it doesn't matter composition. It's the fact that they can punish mistakes so easily and decisively, and also their individual performances every game. Here, the first clip will showcase number 1 of the cases, which is punishing enemy mistakes. Right here, as we can see onto the map, there are 2 deaths onto Fnatic, and only Rekkles, Jankos, and the Thresh are only available. So as I keep on playing this one, you'll see that Jankos is trying to go into the pit. He has absolutely no vision though, but what he does, which is key, keep your eyes on that pink ward, because that pink ward will be key for that Baron. Now, as I keep on playing this, the pink ward remains right there, and Jankos has a really good visual of where he wants to put down his equalizer. The equalizer goes down, the Rekkles arrow goes down, and what Rogue chooses to do here is that they just keep on stacking arrows onto the Baron, because they have Hand Summer onto the Kalista, so technically they sort of have a smite. But you know who else has a smite? Jankos has a smite. You know who else can steal the Baron? Rekkles, who's charging this arrow, can steal the Baron. So as I keep playing the clip, you'll see that who ends up getting the Baron is G2, and that's due to that pink ward right there that allowed them the vision to do so. Now, yeah, okay, they're really good at punishing mistakes, fair enough, but this is where the individual prowess really shines. Here, Rogue and G2 have completely split the map in 2. G2 has decided to go bot side with, if I bring up the minimap, you see that Wunder right here is doing the Infernal Soul, which is going to be huge later on for the fight to come. And on the other hand, you also have Rogue, who have taken complete control of this territory with their vision and want to choke out G2. Now, if I keep on playing this, you'll see that G2 obviously want to move in and try to get something done for themselves. They have absolutely no vision. They will waste a bunch of ultimates. Rekkles ultimate will go in, the equalizer will go in, and that's due to them just trying to get some vision down. Now, of course, we all know what happens here. The carries from G2 walk in, Odoamne absolutely destroys them, but I want you to keep your eyes on this man down here in the corner who's going to TP in later on. So if I keep playing this, Odoamne will find the perfect opportunity to take out both Caps and Rekkles, who are the 2 undisputable carries for G2, or so you thought. Because the game keeps going on, Wunder is on the flank, and what's really important is that he will find Trimby. And why this is important is because when he kills off Trimby and takes him off, what he does next is what completely puts a nail in the coffin. He grips Hand Summer and instantly kills him together with the rest of G2, but it doesn't end there. This is where the individual prowess comes in for Wunder. He will turn this into a 1v2. At this point, Odoamne is into his hourglass, and the ultimate that's coming in from Wunder to completely negate any damage coming in from the cannon. But this is the most important thing. He starts casting the passive as Larsen is just about to dunk on him, completely negating any damage coming from the Jace, and turns this whole fight around. So, quite honestly, you can kill 1 carry from G2, you can kill 2 carries from G2, hell, you can kill all of them but 1. And that 1 member can completely turn around a whole fight 1v5.
Yeah, no, well, it definitely seems that way, especially when you've just killed 2 of the biggest dogs on G2. You'd think you'd have done enough. Our biggest dog is standing behind us, actually. I've got a little bark from you. Hello, Ender. How you doing? Rough.
You're on fire tonight, aren't you?
Preferably not. But either way, G2 are looking bloody brilliant. No denying that. And it's a big turnaround from how they ended in the spring season. So, dude, what changes have they made that has instigated a resurgence in the G2 we were all looking for?
Honestly, for me, one of the biggest changes has been Jankos. He's felt so much more consistent for me this split. And you've looked back to like the Jankos of 2019, large parts of 2020, he was the rock for G2. And well, bringing in Rekkles last split, I said Rekkles was kind of like the designated driver for G2. He was the guy keeping them sane. And yet we saw last week in the big game against Rogue, that bot lane of G2 faltering, dying early on in the 2v2. Who's there to show up and bring everything back on course? It was Jankos on his his Rumble. He's also pulled out the Xin Zhao as well. And it's these picks, these, you know, the more comfort and the confidence that I think Jankos has been able to build with a more open off season, not having to go with MSI, maybe some more time to practice, that he's come in and looked much hotter this summer.
And could you quickly, Trouble, help me on the other side of the coin? How do you explain why people are describing Vitality as a volatile presence? It's either going to be fantastic or a disaster. I can't quite get my head around that.
It's honestly like either sink or swim for Vitality. There's no middle ground. And that's because of the nature of the way they like to play. They bring SLT in straight from EU Masters. Yeah. He's played Gwen in EU Masters and absolutely destroyed top lane. He's a more of an aggressive player. You've got Labrov, who wants to make plays around the map, and then Selfmade and Leader. Well, we talked about them earlier on in the day as well. They just want to make plays. They just want all the resources. And it's sort of like either you're going to take the risk to make the 2v2 with Leader and Selfmade and win, or like they're going to talk you out of resources, you're going to lose some team fights, and your composition just doesn't make sense anymore. Sure, you have Crownshot, which to me does sort of what Rekkles does for G2. He's sort of the backline carry, where if everything else fails, you just resort to them. This is why I find Vitality to be a wannabe G2, but I think Jankos at this point cannot compare to Selfmade, because Jankos is just the best babysitter jungler we have in the league.
I want to be. Well, I'll tell you what I want. What I really, really want is a draft. And we are closing out the day with Vitality versus G2. So let's leave the floor to the unlikely combo of a grandpa and the Lord of Cringe himself.
Trevor, miss me?
The question is, did Ender influence Machine? Did our scriptwriter plan that months ago? It's just weak. It's just weak, and it's not.
He called me a lord. I'll take it. All right.
You're not a lord unless you own some land at somewhere in the UK.
Is this desk not my land?
No, it is not. Absolutely not. Let's turn our attention to the draft. It is Vitality taking on G2. And it is another one of these games where there are some questions to be asked. I think for the Vitality members, they've actually been quite outspoken about their play or their opinions on the game. Selfmade being very critical, being very negative on his perception, yet statistically and the impact that he's having, he's one of the better performers on the team, you know? So I need to see how they continue to develop. And this is symptoms of a new team. It is new players put together and new support staff behind them.
I think that's Vitality are just kind of going through a new team phase.
Yep.
You know, I mean, we were talking about it, right? When you kind of look at their position in the standings, I feel that they're performing as expected. They're kind of struggling against the top 5 teams, and they're beating the bottom 5 teams, right? And so right now, they're kind of looking like that team challenging for the 5th, 6th spot, which for a brand new team composed of players that haven't really played with each other outside of Selfmade and Crownshot, like, I think they're performing as expected, and I think that if they can challenge the top teams, then they are overperforming and heading in a definitely positive direction.
And the hope is that this team can continue to develop and continue to grow, because there is a lot of potential. And this will be another one of these tests for Vitality against the team who is sitting in the top of the standings. G2 are on the blue side. They will immediately ban away Illusion, followed by that Viego. And we'll see which direction we'll take this draft for G2. We know that Selfmade and Leader tend to have really high priority on the picks that Vitality want and tend to get played around significantly. One of the big differences between these two teams is the focus in the ganks as well as the kills. A lot of bot lane outside of G2 and a lot more top lane for Vitality. Varus and Akali next, no surprises there.
No, nothing too shocking. We can still see the Renekton being left up and available. Rumble is, of course, still up and available. Gwen is currently unbanned.
100% presence here in the LEC. 22 games banned coming into today. And still up. Will it be Vitality's final ban? Xin Zhao instead?
Gwen.
First pick Gwen. Has to be.
Has to be a first pick Gwen. No doubt about it. There it is. That will be G2's first Gwen of the split. The question is, who will it go to? Wunder or Caps? Traditionally, we have seen it in the top lane, but for anyone that likes to pay attention to what Caps does in solo queue, he plays a lot of Gwen. He seems to be very proficient and loves to play the champion, so it could go to either or, in my opinion.
And you gotta think about who you're playing into, of course. Leader, somebody who loves to play those melee assassins, those burst damage type champions, and Lee Sin has been locked in, comboed with that Thresh.
Now, Thresh is typically permabanned, so the fact that it's made it through the draft and Vitality are getting it full of Labrov, and when he first joined the LEC, Thresh was one of his comfort picks that he had decent success on. when you pair that up with the Lee Sin, we'll see where this Lee will end up going, whether it be Selfmade's jungle Lee Sin, which could be very exciting, or whether it is up in the top lane. That's all very well and good, but I now kind of want to draw your attention to Rekkles
Jinx?
on Jinx. I don't think he played this once last split, Quickshot. I actually don't remember the last time he played it.
Give me a second, Okay, so Guaranteed did not play it in spring 2021. And, okay, the last time that Rekkles played Jinx was in 2019 spring. It was against G2,
wow,
and it was a loss. 0-3-0. Now, the most interesting thing when I'm looking at the table is before that, he last played it at Worlds 2015. 1 game of Jinx in the last 5 years of competitive play. And he's pulling it out today into Crownshot with the help of that TK.
So what's crazy about this is evidence of the evolution of Rekkles, because last split he talked a lot about how, like, if he wasn't super comfortable on a champion, then he wasn't prepared to play it. But here we are. He's now running out this Jinx that he hasn't played in an incredibly long time. The question is, how will it work out with the Tahm Kench for Mikyx in the bot lane?
And let's take a look at phase 2 bans. Volibear and Nocturne removed from Vitality. Diana, the first run from G2. And the question marks here, where is this Gwen going, top or mid? Where is this Lee Sin going, top or jungle?
Now, the fact that Vitality have banned out Volley and Nocturne heavily suggests to me that Lee is going top lane, and they have banned out strong matchups into the Lee Sin. On top of that, they are also suggesting to me that this Gwen is going in the mid lane, and that we haven't yet seen a top laner come out for Wunder. But as I say that, Vitality are now going to lock in the Lulu, which you imagine is going in the top lane, as we have seen already a few times this split.
And definitely not going to be expecting that in Leader's hands. I mean, SLT's played 1 game of that. It was actually a win for him. Now, what do you think of this? If this Gwen into Lulu, and this Lee Sin's likely going to be going into the jungle now.
Yeah.
So we're looking for a mid lane pick for Leader. He'll be able to see what the rest of G2's composition is going to be. And wait, if this Karma gets locked in, is that top Karma,
yes,
mid Gwen now?
That is what it suggests to me. Of course, Karma kind of still go mid. G2 have that flexibility, and I've seen Gwen solo killing Lulus before when you run the Ignite in the top lane as well. So it's definitely not an impossible matchup for Gwen players, depending on how proficient you are. So I'm not going to say anything for G2's draft just yet. Let's see what they round things out with.
Oh, so interesting how this is played out. Now, my instinct is that Wunder would be the one piloting the Karma, and that I expect Caps to play.
That's
Gwen.
kind of what I think
Yeah.
right now, because I imagine they pick the Karma into the Lulu, and they're saying to Caps, you know what, you can play whatever, just play the Gwen, and you can play it into whatever matchup you want. But how is Leader going to answer? Right now he's hovering the Ryze, and he's going to lock that one in. So we know that Leader, usually one of his go-to and comfort mages is this Ryze. Very powerful split push presence, does have strong power scaling in the side lane. I'm not too familiar with the Ryze versus Gwen side lane matchup in the late game. I kind of want to naturally give it over to Gwen and say that she is just favored in the side lane, but I may very well be wrong, because Leader is bringing out into this matchup. But I think that when you kind of look at Vitality's comp as a whole, they have strong mid-jungle presence in the early game with very powerful scaling in the late game. You have to remember that with Aphelios, he loves it when champions come into him. Relatively short range, and when things are trying to dive onto his face, he is in his most comfortable. Gwen, Olaf, both want to run into you, get into melee range, want to challenge you, and you have a Lulu and a Thresh to offer peel while this Aphelios looks to pop off. So early game, mid-jungle for Vitality, late game, it's the Crownshot show.
No surprises there from the Vitality perspective, and will G2 be able to run down Team Vitality, or will Vitality be able to stand tall and use this interesting comp to their perfection? Both teams kind of linear and how they're going to start fights, and let's hit the riff for G2 versus Vitality. Okay, Vedius, I immediately want to get your take on this Olaf and Lee Sin combination. A number of junglers were banned away. And I know Lee Sin was a little bit of a hot topic at the beginning of the season. Already talking about other junglers being better and just how difficult it is to make this work in the jungle.
Well, of course, with the jungle changes that happened, I forget specifically which patch. I think it was 11.9. But basically jungle camps, the timer, the respawn timer got increased ever so slightly, which then the idea was that it wasn't just about power farming junglers permanently doing full clears. Now you can have junglers that have pretty fast clears, but there are also windows for them to gank. So Lee Sin has kind of slowly been rising in popularity. He was already a strong laner, but his jungle clear speed, not bad at all. The thing about Olaf is that he is just naturally a very good matchup into Lee because he can outduel him in the early game. So typically what you do with the Lee is you want to try and have that strong mid-jungle matchup, which you typically do with the Ryze, who has strong pushing power early on, and then you pair that up with a Lee, good gank setup, everything just looks great. However, Gwen Olaf, if you got into a fight with them, you kind of feel like, ooh, that's a tough 2 versus 2. So like while I did initially say that Vitality's 2v2 mid-jungle is strong, I think that on paper, G2 should have the stronger one if they match up. The question is, how will this mid-prio look? Because we don't get to see a lot of mid-lane Gwen, and I'm excited to see what Caps can do on the champion.
Yeah, we really don't. And for leader, this Ryze, 7th or 8th most played champion behind a lot of those melee assassins and burst mages. So let's see what he can do into Caps as well. Another good opportunity to test himself. And looking at this Caps on the Gwen, as well as Rekkles on the Jinx, one of the big things that we were talking about coming into this game, as Caps is going to jump onto leader and have a big trade, is just comparing the 2 carries of G2 Esports and the impact that they have for the respective teams. If you look at the jungle proximity, a lot being given there to Rekkles. CSD obviously pretty high, so good laning here for Caps, but then it gets interesting in the second half.
Yeah, so what's really fascinating is that when you think about Caps and Rekkles this split, like, even Niski said in his interview that he thinks that Caps is still the best mid laner in Europe. But I think that for me, when I watch G2 games, Rekkles kind of steals away a lot of the spotlight. You know, I don't really talk about Caps, who's literally playing on the edge of his life. But it feels a lot like Rekkles has just been stealing the kind of show. But you kind of look at the laning stats, you can see the Caps is still very dominant, even though his jungle proximity is higher than what Rekkles has in terms of the raw values. The reality is that relative to other mid laners, he doesn't get the same jungle presence that many other mid laners do, which is kind of not typical when you think about G2, because Caps has kind of been that player that both Mikyx and Jankos would often roam towards. And we even had a segment on it last week where we're like, hey, is this like, are they going back to that 2019 form? But it does feel like the G2 identity is shifting a little bit more, that Caps' roles and responsibility isn't to be that big pop-off performing player that he was when G2 was kind of in that era of sheer dominance and success. With Rekkles joining the roster, he's kind of taken a little bit more of that responsibility, and as time has gone on from spring to summer, his impact is definitely really being felt.
Yeah, it is. And of course, we're asking the question of how much influence is Caps having, especially as the game plays out, because laning is looking good, as we've highlighted. But then when you do look at some of the impact and damage share and damage per minute differences, it's not the Caps of old. But it doesn't have a huge negative impact right now. G2 are still 4-1, and the trading has played out pretty much as expected. I think that Caps has been dancing on the absolute edge of safety with leader. Been fighting, his HP's been low, he's already been back and TP'd back into the mid lane. The junglers, respectively, both hit level 4, have had their first backs, and we'll see if there's any lane that they will be able to influence, but nothing sort of note as of yet. But I'm going to keep my eyes on Jankos and Selfmade and where they decide to move next, because it is in that window where plays can happen.
Now, I love keeping my eyes on the mid lane, but our observers are highlighting a great pathing there from Jankos. Managed to navigate his way through the vision, does not get spotted, and has his eyes set on a top lane gank.
No level 6 yet for SLT. Flash forward from Wunder. Flash available for SLT. And he manages to escape. Of course, Wunder initiating that one early, trying to get the route down, and they trade flashes.
So the idea from Wunder there was to flash so that even if SLT flashes, it will still end up binding him. However, SLT used the bonus movement speed from his own Whimsy to then create enough space that he could then flash out of range of the tether and is able to get away to safety. So both Ghost and Flash used on the side of G2, whereas only the flash from SLT. Good job from him being able to get out of that situation.
Now, both top laners, relatively juicy targets. And the Selfmade and Jankos want to try to repeat that gang. Crownshot and Labrov push this wave in pretty heavily. Will be cleared out here by Rekkles and Mikyx. Spitting that minion out just to interrupt the back, and it does look like there's a attempt. That's a flash forward into the root. The flay backwards onto Rekkles. Flash and heal used. Labrov and Crownshot going to be able to trade summoners, all 4 for 2, technically.
Interesting. I'm wondering why Mikyx decided to hold on to the consume there. I wonder if it was because the Thresh hook wasn't used and he was just waiting for that to come out. Either way, summoners traded, damage coming down onto Caps, but he's going to use his W to mitigate the Q from over the wall from Selfmade, and he had information on where he was, so he was able to get out of that one. So no blood drawn just yet, just a bit of trading back and forth. Jankos now has his eyes set on the bot lane.
There's no vision here for Vitality. They're just about to spot out Jankos. Mikyx stepping forward. No summoners, remember, for Vitality's bottom lane. That's the undertow coming up from Jankos. The flay pushes him backwards. Realm Warp will bring Selfmade and Leader to the bottom lane. Jankos is the first to fall. Turn their attention to Mikyx as the teleport's now coming out. Wunder arrives and immediately retreats. Selfmade not going to be able to find the secondary kill onto Mikyx, and the body block from Wunder saves the day.
Excellent Realm Warp from Leader to bring the jungle down into the river fight, because things looked dire for Crownshot and Labrov, but the mid jungle was there. They were able to respond, and Vitality end up coming out on top. First blood to Vitality.
And it lands in Selfmade's hands, which is, I think, hugely impactful. Going to be one of the players that can set things up, put pressure onto that back line, and Caps will just finish the recall as Leader returns to lane. The Realm will bring the party to the bottom lane, and Vitality with an 800 gold lead. That's going to be a very good start for them. SLT's got his TP back. Wunder does not. Now, the teleport from Lulu gank, not the most scary, but obviously having the ability to bring all that utility to a potential skirmish could be valuable.
Now, what's interesting here is that SLT, I think he wisely kind of had the wave pushing into him. He was going to reset, and then he could even walk back. But G2 recognizing that the bot lane already needed to reset, the top wave was already in an awkward position, and if Wunder had gone, his wave would have been kind of like stuck. So instead, they just swap the bot side up towards top. The Herald is spawning soon, and this also gives G2 the ability to trade Herald for the first Drake, and they can kind of like fix the wave state. So I think this was a good swap from G2 overall. Wunder now has to play weak side on the bottom of the map because he realizes that his jungler is not going to be nearby. He could be in some serious danger, and also Selfmade just hit 6. So we'll see if Wunder's able to navigate that difficult situation.
You can see the pressure that Mikyx's putting onto Vitality, just shoving them backwards, getting them out of the way. Wunder will just run into Labrov. There is, again, Mikyx's just trying to zone away SLT as best he can. A couple of plates picked up here by Rekkles already. In the mid lane, Leader continues to push into Caps, and with the swap, as you rightly pointed out, Vedius, Dragon secured here for Vitality, so they got the first kill, they get the first Drake. The Crownshot left unattended in that bottom lane, also picking up advantages here. So both teams relatively comfortable in the start of this game. Leader, no Realm Warp, no Flash, but has lots of Vitality support. SLT will complete the TP. Gigantic damage from Wunder, but the disengage is strong, and ultimately that's just a wasted TP.
Mikyx has made his way down as well, but I don't think it was a wasted TP, mainly because I think that if SLT hadn't done it, then G2 would have taken that fight. So by him TPing down, they kind of neutralized the numbers advantage that G2 had, and they're saying, all right, G2, if you want to fight, we're fighting on even terms. And G2 said, you know what? We don't want that. We don't want an even fight. We only want a fight that is an advantage to us. The thing that does surprise me is Jankos chose to go for a gank rather than the Herald. I feel like that there was a window there where he could have taken that pretty much uncontested, and then they could have just secured themselves the top tower. But in the same vein, Rekkles was just kind of left alone with the tower. He was able to secure himself 3 plates in isolation. You can see that he's gotten a decent amount of solo XP as well, because Mikyx was roaming around and trying to assist the rest of his team. He's going to upgrade his boots off the back of that, and he can likely just go back towards top and keep threatening this tower. The question is now, what will happen with this Herald? Because you can see Selfmade pathing up towards the top side of the map. They know that this objective is still up. They have push in mid, SLT has push in top, and now with the numbers, Vitality should actually be able to secure this objective for themselves.
Now the Herald and not going for it is a trend for G2. They've actually only picked up 10% of all Heralds in the games that they played. They have not picked up a single first Herald across all 5 previous games, and once again electing not to make a move for that. Now there does look like a soft challenge here, not enough support just yet, as Jankos decides not to move in just for the moment. So that's 6 games in a row where every first Herald goes to G2's opponents, and that means Vitality, they managed to pick up the Drake, they managed to pick up the Herald, they managed to pick up the first kill of the game, and now they can use that Herald to help give themselves an advantage in whichever lane they choose.
Certainly can. I think that they have options in mid, they have options top if they really want it, and they can also just secure themselves the tower bot. Because this top tower is so low, Selfmade could go for a cross map, but he's still hovering around. We could see a fight.
There's a teleport from Caps available, as is Leader. Crownshot's able to sidestep the tongue lash. The box slows Mickey in his way. Now Mickey's able to escape for the time being, and Selfmade has just arrived. The Moonlight Vigil comes down from Crownshot. The Flay, the Lantern, the kill for Labrov. They get 1, they get 2. Vitality in the lead.
Excellent punish once again from Vitality. They really are taking advantage of G2's early game here, and Selfmade really getting the better of Jankos in so many situations. We knew that Selfmade was topside, he was clearing his Krogs, that's why he pathed towards topside as well. Overall, excellent pathing from him, and then Labrov recognizing that he can go for this engage. I feel like Mickey could have cleansed here to just remove the Ignite. But he's just tanking this damage up. Initially, Rekkles is in position, but then you can see a bit of indecision here. G2 saying we don't want to fight, but look at this huge slow that's put down onto Jankos. He then pops the ultimate, the heal comes through, and then the Ignite dissipates, and then the Lantern into Flash, sets up for Selfmade. Oh, beautiful execution there from Labrov to allow Selfmade to then get himself a kill onto Jankos, and overall, Vitality sit with a 1k gold lead.
I mean, really nicely done. Labrov's 3rd most played champion ever is Thresh. Thresh is the 2nd highest presence champion in the league, and the combination with Selfmade's Lee Sin was just fantastic there. But I think more importantly, throughout the course of these 12 minutes of gameplay, Labrov has been on point, as has Crownshot, using the full kit of Aphelios and Thresh to counter whatever G2 are doing. It's a 1,000 gold lead. It's 3 kills. This Herald will come down. It's still 2 minutes before these plates fall, so this is going to give them even more gold. And lead is already up 20 CS. Plus now the plates, plus the tower. Vitality is significant lead right now.
Very clean game overall. Now is Crownshot in some danger here? No flash.
No flash, the Lantern is nearby. Labrov, Crownshot gonna be in trouble as the teleport completes from Wunder, but Leader and Selfmade make their way up. Another flay there from Labrov after following the queue. Mikyx survives for the time being. That's a kill there onto Rekkles. The first for G2, and the Realm Warp gets Vitality to safety.
So this time around, the collapse from Leader and Selfmade doesn't go in their favor, but at least they're able to disengage after losing Labrov's life. Overall, not too bad for Vitality. They still maintain control, but you can see just a bit of an overextension here from Crownshot. He was not expecting the G2 bot lane to be sitting in this bush, which had a control ward in it. The TP then comes through from the Karma, and they're saying, hey, this is a great opportunity for us to get some picks, get some kills down onto Rekkles. And I guess the worst part about all of this for Vitality is that Rekkles ends up getting that kill as he continues to farm up and be very strong. And you know he's going to be a very, very big late game threat, as Jankos now has his eyes on SLT. Still has the flash though, so I doubt he's going to be in any real danger.
It'll be very fun to watch Rekkles versus Crownshot as this game plays out. G2, they counter the first tower with one of their own, and now they'll set their sights on the inner turret. But while that's going on, again, Selfmade, cross-map play. He picks up the second dragon, has some support there from Labrov, another tower. So again, it's advantages to Vitality. They're extending this gold lead further. And something that we have to point out is that G2, throughout the course of their previous 5 games, they've actually spent the majority of their gameplay time even. 65% has been, you know, at an even or like close game state.
About this game state, actually.
I actually just asked stats at what point the goal difference would be considered like a major lead. But the one thing that is important to call out, G2 have only spent 7% of their game time at a major deficit. And that means that they maintain sort of an even footing, maintain, you know, trading objectives, and then they've just won in the late game, you know, 4 times out of the 5.
Yeah, and it's the team fights where we're going to be keeping our eyes, because I think that's where things get really spicy, because Vitality, they found themselves with early leads before. Let's not forget, against Rogue, they lost early, bounced back in the mid-game, and then they were able to have a huge impact. And again, I think that what we're seeing from Vitality is the development of a new team, right? Remember that when you look at their schedule, you can see that they've beaten Schalke pretty convincingly. They beat SK pretty convincingly. And they've lost to Rogue, finalists from last split. They lost to Fnatic, who, whilst having some changes, were really finding their form last week and currently sit in the top 5. And Misfits, who right now are just very much in form. So they've lost to teams in the top 5 and they've beaten the teams in the bottom 5. And the question for me is very much with how much does Vitality grow within a single split? Can they actually contest for potentially one of those world spots? And how far can they actually make a run in the LEC? Because again, for a new team to even be considering the finals, I think is already a big stretch. And it's like, I think right now Vitality is performing as expected, and it's simply a matter of how far can they go? And right now they look great.
And how quickly, of course. I almost think some of the expectations on this team is a little bit like unfair in some ways, because the players, you know, Selfmade, Leader, Crownshot.
It's a very hyped team on paper.
It is, and there's a lot of support for each of them individually. I think Crownshot's return in spring was fantastic. He's looking very good, and there's just a lot of hype around these players. And when you see this 15 minutes, when you see how they played this early game against G2, it gives you a lot of hope. And they will take their third tower, they maintain this gold lead, and you need to see how they can pressure G2 further.
But sometimes they overcommit. Sometimes they get a little overzealous, and it's that decision-making that's punishing them. As SLT does have the flash, gonna get out to safety. But yeah, that decision-making from Vitality is what I ultimately think costs them in the mid to late game, and why they've lost games that arguably they could have actually come out on top of. And this is why I think Selfmade has also been very critical of himself, because when you look at this roster, he is kind of the veteran, the leader almost, him alongside Crownshot. And so when it comes down to those decisions, you kind of look at them to be the one making them. So we'll see how things go on. Right now, they're in a great position. The next Drake spawns in about 2 minutes' time. Selfmade had his eyes on Wunder, but I don't think... Oh, actually, with Leader there, they could go for a cheeky collapse, but a good ward is going to spot that out, and Wunder should still be very safe.
He still has flash available to him, as well as the mantra ability. So difficult to stick onto that Karma. But what do you want to see here from Vitality? I expect them to be setting up for the next Drake. It would be the most obvious move. But also with their composition, we talked in draft how they would love for G2 to run at them. They do have a lot of peel. But also important to call out that 2-0-1, if Selfmade and Leader can combo or jump onto someone who's slightly separated from the team, there is also proactive plays they can make.
So, you've been casting a while, Quickshot. You probably remember the old, well, Lee Sin falls off in the late game. Do you remember that back in the day?
A long time ago,
yeah.
Yes.
So, like, as the game has evolved and as items have changed, Lee Sin, you could still argue that he falls off in a way because his access to the backline becomes a little harder, but his playmaking potential is insane. And that's why I think that in late game fights he offers more than an Olaf can. But it obviously depends on the context. In this comp, I'm really excited to see what Selfmade can do. Like, I've been watching a lot of Cajal stream with his Lee Sin, and he's done some crazy stuff. We've seen many other Challenger players do other insane things, pro players do even more. Like, the Insect was obviously named after a guy making crazy stuff happen on Lee. So let's see what Selfmade can do as Leader's found a flank.
And crucially, it comes purely down to execution. You have to land skill shots. You have to find either Caps or Rekkles in this scenario. There's a Tahm Kench, there's a Karma, there's a lot of tools that G2 can use as well. And G2 are currently grouped up. That's a death sentence onto Caps. Selfmade's going to be forced to take the Lantern to safety. The box has already been used, and Leader is going to get caught out, stepping away. Gets tagged by the Undertow, dash over the wall from Caps. W goes down. Now G2 split up. It's a 4v4 and a 1v1. Caps rejoins the fray. Death sentence connects. That's a Devour on cooldown. What can Vitality do? Selfmade still got the flash available, still got the Sonic Wave, and it is a tense dance. Nobody yet caught out enough to go down.
Very tense indeed. Heal was used by Rekkles, but the poke continues to come out. The Drake is being started, hook whiffs.
Their sentence won't find the target just yet. Mikyx will be able to devour up one. Super Mega Death Rocket puts so much damage onto Vitality, they're forced to retreat. Selfmade goes in, gets the kick, does not find the kill. He does! It's actually Leader that takes down Caps. There's a follow-up there as well, as now Jankos has dropped down. Vitality inside the pit as Wunder's running for his life. The round warp will send two members of Vitality, and they represent to pick up a triple kill for Leader. The third dragon as well, and Vitality win the fight.
It was looking like a great fight for G2. Initially, the damage from Caps was huge onto the front line, but they're able to turn it around. So let's have a look at Caps here, because a lot of things miss for Vitality, but then look at how much damage he's able to get off onto the entire enemy composition combined with the ultimate from Jinx. You think that they're going to win, but then look at how quickly the front line melts thanks to Leader. Great combination because all of G2 is stacking up. He's able to get the Ryze combo repeatedly off. Crownshot is left untouched, and the chase through comes from Vitality. Well executed front to back team fight that they're able to come out on top of, and huge props to Leader dishing out the damage needed to allow Vitality to win.
He manages to close it out. I think that Labrov hit like 4 out of 5 of those death sentences that he threw out, and while they weren't followed up on, the amount of pressure that puts onto G2. They are now down 3 Drakes, they are now down 5,000 gold. This is definitely a major deficit. And it is past 20 minutes on the clock. Vitality leading every single category, and the two people that you talked about during draft, mid and jungle, Selfmade and Leader, they are the ones that are carrying and closing things up. But do not forget, Crownshot 005 and he is on the 200 years champion against melees or sort of close range that want to run at him.
I love this from Vitality. They're saying, we're stronger, we know we're stronger, we're going to do Baron. We're going to do one at 20 minutes and force you to fight as another hook lands.
It does indeed. Ragnarok used by Jankos to escape. Teleport coming down from Wunder. It's Caps instead, rather. That channels it. Wunder stays in the middle lane. Now, all of a sudden, it's a 5v5 in the river. This has pulled Vitality away from Baron, but it cost them the teleport.
Jankos forced to use his Ghost and his ultimate hook goes wide. Vitality still control the top side river. G2 right now trying to contest for mid-prio, but Vitality will not let them. They're going to force G2 back, make their way back towards the Baron, and clear out some of this vision.
There's no flash available for Selfmade. There's a number of wards that he can hop to. Selfmade not going to connect the Sonic Wave onto Wunder, and it is Vitality daring G2. It's Vitality forcing the hand of G2 Esports, and for the time being, getting advantages every time.
I like what Leader did there. He was pinging, saying, let me fix top wave. There's no point in us just A-ramming around mid. Like, we're just wasting our time instead. Let me go fix this. And at first, Selfmade was like, I can fight. And you saw Leader sort of backtrack in the river and said, okay, okay. And then he's like, okay, that's enough now. Let me go fix the side waves. And then they disengage from the fight. Vitality hold on to mid while Leader pushes that out. And now it looks like that they're going to go back to the Baron. Or are they just baiting it? Because this is all dark. The blue orb will come through. G2 know what's going on. Jankos' ultimate is just about to come back up. And another hook lands.
Once again, Labrov starts it off. He throws down the box relatively early. Another teleport channeled. And Vitality pull out of the pit. Jankos' Ragnarok runs out. And now G2 step forward, contest the vision, challenge it. But Vitality have secured both teleports. They have them available for both SLT and Leader. So they can now take control of these side lanes. And we talked a little bit about how Gwen versus Ryze could play out. I think a Ryze that is 3-0-1, up in CS, and has the teleport, plus 3 Drakes under his belt, should be able to challenge.
Should very well be able to challenge. I mean, right now, Leader is the big carry of this game. You already talked about Crownshot. He's that guy. He will be the main carry the later this game goes, but as we're still kind of in that transition from the mid to late, you can see a nearly 3,000 gold lead for Leader over Caps. Very big performance for Leader, especially when there are so many question marks surrounding him as a player. Can he compete on the LEC level? Does he have a deep enough champion pool? And while Ryze is definitely no stranger to his champion pool, he's definitely having a huge impact in this game.
I mean, he is, and I'm looking at Labrov and Selfmade who set up so many of these plays. They've comboed together exceptionally well. And I'm going to go back to something we talked about much earlier in the game. Is Caps having the influence in the team fights in the mid to late game that we're used to seeing.
Yep.
And it's going to be even harder this game because of the advantages that Vitality have accrued. It's 45 seconds until the next Dragon, and we spent almost 2 minutes dancing around. Leader's got Teleport and Realm Warp available. He's pushing the bottom lane. And it looks like Vitality just trying to defend that mid wave.
Oh, but Vitality just have so much control right now. Like, the Drake spawns in 30 seconds. G2 have to use their numbers advantage to try and gain some control over the river and their own jungle, whereas Leader's just like, yeah, I'm just going to keep split pushing. You either come and deal with me, but then you lose mid-prio. Look, he's going to use the Realm War. It's options for days. Vitality can do whatever they like. Really good getting onto the wave early so that there is no wave to contest. G2 have control over the river, but they're just bleeding farm across the board.
Dragon River fight round 2. G2 Esports 5-man stack inside the river just in front of the pit.
That's the Mantra shields used by Wunder.
He's on cooldown, can get lowered if he gets some damage out. Leader steps forward, finds the route onto Mikyx. Death Sentence will get cleansed, so that's now not available. Mikyx standing on the front line, trying to tank up what he can. Selfmade finds Caps, kicks him forward, and the Devour is not going to be enough. It is Mikyx that goes down first, Caps that goes down second, and Labrov goes all the way forward, just unable to find the Death Sentence. 3 members of G2 blown up from a fantastic flank.
Without hesitation, Selfmade kicks Caps in the face. Rekkles is going to lose his life as well, and in dominating fashion, Vitality are smashing G2.
This is a controlled obliteration from Vitality. Their team fights have been fantastic, and they have punished G2 every single time they've gone toe-to-toe. Follow Selfmade this fight.
Yeah, so he just walks up, says to Caps, let's go, you don't have flash. The kick into flash to direct straight into the team. Mikyx flashes in to save his mid laner, loses his life as a result, but you can see the Olaf runs in, immediately has to run out. Caps can't disengage. Crownshot dealing the damage needed, and then the chase through from the rest of the team. Just such a well-played fight from Vitality. And then Rekkles realizes I've been flanked by a Leader with with the TP. Where can I go? He ends up losing his life as well. And Vitality, they now have everything. The Infernal Soul, they have themselves the Bound, and you can see now the Crownshot damage has definitely come online.
10,000 gold lead, and you have to ask, why was Caps pathing into the pit? I didn't quite see the setup, if he was forced in the pit, or maybe just had an odd pathing.
Maybe he wanted to try and fight Selfmade, but he made that very easy for Selfmade, that's for sure. And Selfmade, like, huge props to him. He was critical of his performance earlier in this split, which has only been, of course, 2 weeks now and a bit. But he's having a great game, for sure. 3-0 and 6, been involved in 9 of the 10 kills. Same for Crownshot, actually, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, the Vitality roster, slowly over time, is getting better and better. And it only makes this roster even more exciting to see because, remember, 3 weeks. And now they're at the point where they're now confidently and cleanly beating G2.
Yeah.
Let's see how much more growth they can make over the next few weeks and if they can close this one out. I'd be very surprised if they can't close this one out.
And they absolutely should be able to. That's Caps getting kicked backwards. Selfmade takes the Lantern to safety. Not enough damage just yet from the rest of Vitality. Now they're going to continue to step forward. Death Sentence is sidestepped, and Selfmade will not take the Lee Syndrome. Leaders coming in from behind. Realm Warp and Flash available to him, not needed. Instead, push the top lane. They've got 5 towers. This will be the 6th. And I think the interesting thing is, of course, now with Vitality picking up these wins, you don't make playoffs, you don't make worlds. It makes things so much more interesting and honestly, so much more important to not drop games. Mad Lions losing to XL, potentially here G2 losing to Vitality. It will make this summer very, very competitive. And Vitality, you just have to celebrate. This is a fantastic game. Slow to start, but it's been their control the whole time.
Certainly is. The mid-jungle from Selfmade leader only seems to be getting better week on week. And now they're knocking down the inhibitor doors. Selfmade has the kick up and available.
Manages
Will
to
he
tag
use it?
Jankos. He's not going to follow it just yet. Clean, get the inhibitors, open up the base. They're not going to take a bigger risk than they need to. This time round, leader, with the help of Vitality, just blow up Mikyx. Death Sentence sends him back to the fountain. Leader starts to charge forward, manages to get the root. Ragnarok used to retreat for Jankos on that Olaf. Another inhibitor falls, and Vitality have just dominated G2. The Nexus is now the focus. They take down the first tower. Another Death Sentence lands. Wunder gets blown up. Caps jumps into the fray, and he gets taken out by Crownshot. 13 kills to 1. Vitality take down the Nexus, and Vitality absolutely embarrassed G2.
I think a lot of this game comes down to that very early Realm Warp into the bot lane when Selfmade was able to get that kill onto Jankos in the bottom lane, where Jankos thought that he had gotten 3 kills onto Crownshot and Labrov when they had no summoner spells. That was the turning point. Selfmade got the edge in the matchup, and then Olaf, as the game progressed, only got harder and harder to play, whereas Selfmade and Leader were only getting stronger and continuing to scale up. The early game did not go the way G2 wanted. Vitality took control. They dominated every single fight. And they got a clean win.
Yeah, just very, very one-sided. I think interesting compositions to some degree. You can talk about those a fair amount, and I'm sure people will.
For sure.
But I also think just expectations continue to be redefined. New questions get asked every single week, and we were wondering where Vitality stack up, you know, where they're going to end towards the end of summer. We kind of thought of them as maybe being like the 6th, 7th team, but with how clean that looked, you see where their ceiling is. Can they find the consistency? Can they do that again? There's just a lot of questions to be asked. Key up player of the game nominees at LEC on Twitter. Selfmade, Leader, Labrov. Such a difficult setup because the entire team played well. Only 1 death between the 5 of them.
Yep. If you want a deciding factor, Leader had the least kill participation of the 3. I don't know if that helps in your decision making when it comes to a vote.
Mid lane right now.
I mean, I think mid lane is a great. I'm just like, there's one stat you can use. His kill participation was lower, so by default he did less. There you go.
I like that. Well, we'll soon hear from Vitality's coach before Leader joins us in the LEC post-game lobby. Don't go anywhere. Well played, Vitality.
systems are overloading. We can't risk another game.
We need to take a break and regroup.
We're starting to lose our mind. Captain, we cannot go back to Elo Hell. Last time it took us months to get out of it.
Initiate break protocol.
Hurry up!
Yes! Yes! I did it! We did it! We did it!
Even the biggest champ needs a break.
Welcome back to LEC Summer. Vitality takes down G2 in the biggest upset we had today. The only upset we had today, actually, and I have Tasz, Vitality's head coach, with me to talk about this amazing victory. Thank you so much for joining me, Tasz. How was it watching the game from backstage? And yeah, what do you think about the performance from Vitality today?
Our performance was very good today. It was a bit nerve-wracking to watch it, especially since we didn't really have amazing games so far. So it was nice that we could take on G2 and could take on them in such a nice manner.
How did you prep against them? Because something we mentioned is that with how flexible the meta can be right now, it's usually G2's playground and how they're successful in games. So tell me about the prep against them today, the draft choices, everything.
I don't know if I can tell you about everything, with some secrets, but I can definitely say that we did scrim G2 quite a lot in the previous weeks. And I think because of it, we had a lot of expectations coming into the draft. And I feel like they also had a lot of expectations towards us. And I also feel like not a lot of them came true. So Realistic and Mephisto, the coaches that are drafting for us, I actually just had to wing it quite a lot, I have to say.
Wow.
But I think they did a very good job. I think we did come on top in draft, and I think we did come on top in the end too. So that was nice to see.
It was an amazing game to watch indeed. You mentioned how things haven't been going quite well, maybe in scrims, and maybe you wanted to have some better results. So can I have more information on that? The work you've been doing backstage and how it translated to on-stage results so far.
Well, I think one of the main challenges for working in Vitality is that the previous splits don't really put a lot of pressure on you, which means that we need to put pressure on ourselves, which means that even if we have a decent week of practice and a decent week of matches, I feel like we still should be pushing for more, and this is what we're doing so far. It's not always easy to keep pushing yourself, and it's nice that we are able to do it so far, and it's nice that it is starting to show, at least today, and we'll see if it shows tomorrow, because we have yet another very, very good opponent.
Yeah. Difficult week for Vitality. I was about to mention this, but also you mentioned Mephisto, Realistic, the coaching staff helping you. So let me know about the dynamic at Vitality. What is your role per se if Mephisto and Realistic are in charge of drafts and mechanics in game?
Yeah, this was my conscious choice. Generally speaking, I do take part in the day-to-day, and I do greenlight all the bigger decisions we're making. But also I am trying to leave a lot of room for strategic and tactical development of the team to them. And I just try to oversee it, because the reality is I think I'm good at creating the processes and I'm good at coordinating the things. At the same time, they are very, very good, or at least much better than me, at typical in-game stuff. And this is why I'm trying to give them as much room. And I understand it, and I just greenlight the decisions they are making. Or sometimes I don't, but so far I think we have been relatively aligned in most of the cases. But this is also the reason why they are the ones drafting, because I do trust them a lot, and so far they have not disappointed me.
Yeah, that is amazing. And yeah, thank you for letting me know about the synergy between the three of you. For the people who didn't know, you were coaching in the LFL last split. How is it different from you, from the LFL in the LEC?
It is much different. As you mentioned, one of the bigger differences is that in LFL it was me, the players, and our remote analyst. Right now I have an opportunity to work with a much bigger coaching staff, which is really, really nice, because when I was choosing the coaching staff, I had an opportunity to reflect on myself, what I think I am good at, what I think I am bad at, and choose the people that support me in my weaknesses, but also emphasize my strengths. And this was a great opportunity for me. And obviously the infrastructure is also great, but to be honest, Vitality is providing it for LEC and Academy teams. So in this context, it's not that much of a difference.
Oh, well, congrats on the job you've been doing so far with the team 3 and 3 in the LEC. And good luck on the hard game you're going to have tomorrow. Thank you, Tasz, for joining me today.
Thank you very much.
And we're going to take one last break, and we'll be back in a couple minutes with PGL, with Quickshot, Trouble, and Leader. See you tomorrow.